Well, hi.
Hi.
Again.
So sorry about that.
You're totally fine. So, my name's Kate, and
Hi.
I've been following you for a little bit. I think you are freaking hilarious
Thank
and
you.
super fun, and love that you just share a lot of truth. I think in a lot of the things that you post.
I'll
So,
try.
kind of from the email I sent to you, kind of maybe get an idea of the whole goal of this podcast is kind of different than like the typical beauty
Okay.
industry. So, what I started to find, I've been in the industry for almost 20 years.
Wow.
I know, long time. And what I have found is that, um, just through like some experiences and a lot of things I've personally walked through, people think, oh, we're just like beauty school dropouts and I don't know if you've ever heard this or people are like, you just do lashes and things like
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And so something that I wanted to kind of showcase was the parts of, most people don't get to sit and talk with their best friend every 2 weeks
Right.
or get to know the hard things that they've walked through. And, in this time that I've been in the industry, what I've learned is that we're the ones that will go to funerals and we know who everybody in the room is, but nobody else knows the secrets and the stories that we know when we look at that person because our client has told us those things. So we're the secret keepers. We are the ones people tell their stories to. We're the therapist, the best friend, kind of all those different things. And so, that's just like the client part of it. But then what I've learned is getting to engage with other really incredible beauty professionals is that, with each other as well. I find a lot of us that are in this industry are very like empathic. And so we're wanting to take care of people and help people in spaces like that. And so getting to have some really deep conversations. I talk a lot with others at like beauty conferences and such about like the Enneagram and attachment theory and things like this. And so, it kind of, if you've ever heard that statement of we're just walking each other home, of the space of we're
Yeah.
just kind of holding space for each other as we all heal. And so our clients do that, but I really want to do that with each other. And so getting to kind of see um, the person behind even some of like the funny things that are here of more some of that heart work. So that's what this is.
Great. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, so excited. So I just want to get to know like a little bit about you. So I want this to be as casual as we both can make it because that
Yeah,
I
for
find
sure.
people love, right?
Yeah. So a little bit about me. So I actually have only been in the industry for about basically 7 years now. So or whatever the math is since 2015, whatever that math is. I actually originally started trying to be a hairdresser because that was actually my first like passion or interest. Mainly because I grew up watching my aunt usually. Well, my aunt was really like my biggest source of inspiration just because she is still a hairdresser and I always watched her. And it's something that I always wanted to do. But for like a whole different bunch of reasons, I decided to like not pursue it like straight out of high school. So I went right into work. Um, and it's actually funny, like I said this before in somewhere else before, but it's kind of like social media kind of brought me a little bit full circle because social media is actually what was the I guess like the trigger for me to actually go to beauty school because social media actually got me fired from the job that I was actually thinking of staying at. Like I was just gonna like work my way up, just go as high as I can, make as much money as I can there. And then something happened, the rise of social media. I posted something that I guess they didn't like, and I got fired. It was nothing like crazy, like nothing like offensive or anything. It was just something silly that they were like, no, you gotta go. All right, great. So then I was like, well, I feel stuck. I don't want to just end up here again. So let me go to school for something. And I decided might as well go for something I like. So I decided to go to school for hair, and I found out the hair industry is actually very hard to break into. Mainly because it's very competitive. They do have a very catty way about them sometimes, depending on where you land. And I just was having a hard time finding like a home, like somewhere that I felt that I could grow in. So then lashes kind of landed in my lap because I took a course on it and I was kind of doing it on the side, I guess like as a little like extra income here and there, nothing like stable or nothing crazy, just like a couple friends. And then a franchise opened up in the area and they were hiring, and I was like, I need money. Let me go. I liked doing it, But truth be told, this is like I still in like the early days of lashes, because even though it was only like 2016, it was still kind of like lashes were still basically kind of a new thing for most areas. So in my mind, even though I liked it, I was like, I don't know if it could be my main source of income. So that's why I never pursued it. But in the moment, I needed like a stable income, like a stable job. So I was like, all right, let me make money doing lashes while I figure out where I can learn hair, and then I'll transition. And I never looked back. So that's actually how I landed in lashes. So I worked for the studio for 4 years, and I moved my way up as high as I wanted to go there. And now I actually work for myself. I rent a salon suite on Long Island in New York. And I actually left during the pandemic, which was like really scary. But what made me decide to like branch off on my own is just I got kind of almost like a sense of confidence when I realized like even during a worldwide pandemic, people are still knocking down the door to get their lashes done. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like this is big. Like this is here to stay. Like not that I didn't think that already because I was 4 years in doing lashes, but like I was like, okay, like that kind of solidified it for me. I was like, I this is gonna be like a long haul thing. So now I'm on my own, and it's just funny because, like I said, the whole full circle thing, social media actually is what got me like into the field, and now it's helping me like grow. So it was more or less kind of an accident that I kind of got like any type of notoriety on social media. Um, I was really just having fun, and I actually kind of just wanted to do something that wasn't so serious, like because not that I respect people who like are really passionate about what they do and they speak really like seriously and passionately, and they want to teach you and their passion comes off really like serious, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but like I love what we do. We make a big impact on the world, but like it's not that serious. Like we don't have to be that serious. And I've always found that I remember more so like when I find something like when I laugh, like it's more memorable to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, people enjoy the funny. Let me try and like incorporate a little bit of teaching and like nuggets of wisdom here and there. And I found that it resonated more when I made them laugh while also teaching, in
Yeah.
a sense.
Yeah.
So, and then it grew from there, and I got a lot of great opportunities, and I got to do things like this, like speak on people's podcasts, and I got to speak on a stage recently, which was great. And I'm just trying to see where this takes me, honestly.
Yeah. So did you know so I love to educate people, and I think it's really interesting in our industry. So I used to be like a educator for this huge lash company, and something that I would see is, these companies would send their employees to training, and in 4 days, they've never laughed before. They had to test out, and these very sweet students would tell me, "I'm going back, and I have an entire full book of clients, and my owner is expecting me to show up and be able to charge $300 for the business." And right, you could just see the stress occurring, and so this is something that I love to talk about when I'm talking about education and things is when our brain moves into a state of stress, your amygdala, I don't know if you've ever heard this before or not, but your amygdala flips on, which is like back here, and your hippocampus, which is up here, which remembers all the things, it like just shuts down. And so
Yeah,
you're like freaking out. So they've actually done these studies, and they did this with kids. Like if you can incorporate play into education, that somebody is 3 times more likely to learn it faster than
right.
without it.
Like
So,
'cause you don't feel like you're learning; you just feel like you're having fun, and
yes.
it's like it kind of just sticks better. And I kind of enjoyed doing that. Like I started like really what started making it pay off a little bit for me was when I started getting the DMs of the thank you so much for what you're doing kind of DMs. Like you taught me a lot more so than like not that I'm out there like teaching like technique or anything, but I'm more so I also like to kind of showcase and like highlight like the fact that like we are essentially like we're a lonely industry. A lot of us work by ourselves, and I kind of just wanted to give somebody like almost like that sense of like you're not going through this alone. Like I go through the same things you're going through, so like I would kind of poke fun at a lot of scenarios that we go through, which I know a lot of people do, but like I would try and incorporate like a little bit of like okay, listen, we're all going through this. Let me just give you a little bit of tips on how you can handle it because you don't have anyone else to go to. Like, you don't have a coworker, you don't have a manager that you can be like, hey, listen, I dealt with this. Like, what would you suggest? And again, just I have a big customer service background, so like it's like one of my big like pet peeves when there's like people don't have really good customer service skills. So I kind
Mhm.
of found that to be um, my niche, I guess, if you want to call it that. Like,
Yeah,
I'm very good at teaching technique, but I like to teach more so like the customer service side of it because it's
yeah,
kind of lacking in this industry a little bit.
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people, they especially like younger artists. I'm kind of going off topic here, but a lot of younger artists I feel like come with like very little to no work experience and don't have very many people skills, and not by no fault of their own. It's just inexperience, and they go right into working for themselves, and it's kind of just who do you go to? So I just like being a source of information that can always make you laugh too.
yeah. No, so I'm so curious. So tell me about like your customer service background.
So basically every job that I've ever had dealt with working directly with people. So I've been, it's a long list, but I've been like a server. I worked in retail. I worked in the banks. I worked in a call center. So I've a whole bunch of different things that dealt with like talking directly to people, like for long term and like building relationships, like serving. Like obviously, it's kind of similar because you have to kind of like build a relationship with them to like get them to tip you essentially because we did work on tips a lot.
Yeah,
So this is kind of the same thing. You have to build that relationship to get them to want you to come back or get them to want to come back. So along the way, I learned different things like, all right, well, this is not working. Like I'm making like crap money compared to this person. Let me learn why. And it's like, oh, it's my customer service skills. Like I could be a little bit nicer. And then over the years, just different, all the different jobs that I've had, I realized it's just easier to just have good customer service skills and make your life just a lot easier and a lot less stressful than to be miserable at your job. you know.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm actually kind of thankful that I was kind of like I don't want to say job hopper, but when I was younger, I did kind of like I call it like the 2 year itch. Every 2 years, I kind of felt like I had to do something different,
Yeah.
and I could move up or move out of
Yeah.
every job, like I say. And so that kind of landed me of doing a whole bunch of different jobs. So I kind of learned a lot in those experiences.
Yeah. Is it just you or do you have a staff yet?
It's just me.
Okay.
Just
Is
me.
that something that you're interested in, like, down the road? Do you wanna have a team or what's your thoughts?
I've learned to never say never.
That's smart.
Um, right now, not sure.
Okay.
I go back and forth honestly because I am at a point where I do need to do something, either find like kind of like diversify my income stream so that I don't have to rely solely on clients because I am kind of like at that fully booked point. And I'm getting up there in price and like eventually I'm gonna cap out in price and like where do I go from there? Like so yes, maybe at some point in the future, but right now I kind of enjoy the space that I'm in and I'm trying to learn how to kind of make what I'm doing in the online space kind of some form of an income.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. It's honestly very new. Like I said, I didn't do research to learn how to become like an influencer, if you want to call it that, or anything. Like I don't know anything about that world, so I'm just kind of learning as I go.
Yeah.
Um, and there's not a ton of like there's a lot of educators out there who have a big following on social media, but there's not a ton of like influencers.
Right.
So trying to see if maybe I can make that a thing in our industry.
Yeah.
Kind of like the makeup community has their influencers. Why can't we?
Yeah, no, totally. So I'm so curious. I mean, I know that this will be helpful for a lot of people who are listening. I mean, so kind of give me like a breakdown of what your day, your week looks like between juggling like clients, answering calls, booking services, right? You're a man of many hats, right? And
Yeah.
you're filming for social media. So give us like what's a week look like for you?
So again, I am not perfect, but I did learn a lot of how to manage things from the different jobs. 'Cause I've been in management stuff, so I've actually had a little bit of experience in how to manage salons. So learning how to like um, delegate my time kind of came a little bit more naturally. I will say I can do a better job at it still, but I am a full time lash artist. That's like my main bread and butter, obviously. So right
How many
now I'm
hours,
working. I'm sorry.
how many hours a week do you feel like you're doing that for?
So I do about right now I'm on summertime hours, so I'm at like 30 hours a week taking clients,
Okay.
give or take.
Yeah.
And then on my days off, like with social media, for example, I try my best to like do like blocks of time for different tasks when it comes to creating content. Like I'll try and dedicate like X amount of time to like sourcing ideas, right? That's one block. And then I'll source another amount of time to actually record the content, like no editing or anything, just record X amount of whatever. And then I spend a little time like actually like editing, like putting the text, the captions, and all that stuff. So um, I tend to do a lot of that on my, like, I guess my fifth day of work. I take clients 4 days a week. So I'm not technically off that fifth day. It's just when I do kind of like my random admin stuff. Yeah. As far as like clients go, that's the part that I'm still learning how to navigate a little bit better. I still kind of answer whenever they text, just because the phone's in my hand,
Yep.
and I'm just like, I don't know. To me, it's like a 2 second thing, so it's like it doesn't. To me, it doesn't bother me. I know, like to some people, they need that break, and I respect that. But personally, right now, it doesn't really bother me too much to answer whenever they text. But my clients are also very good at understanding, like if I don't answer, they're like, I get it. Like it's after hours. Like I get it. So they're not like hounding me or anything like that. And sometimes I'll respond like, hey, listen, I got your message. I'm gonna get back to you tomorrow when I'm actually like working. So that's not anything crazy. So like I said, most of my time is taken up taking clients. I don't thankfully, fortunately, have to do a ton of marketing for new clients right now, just because I don't have a ton of room.
Yeah.
So that doesn't take up a ton of my time. Um, and also a lot of it for me, thankfully, because of where I used to work, I kind of already built up a reputation here. So word of mouth has kind of helped me a lot, and
Hmm.
that's how I built up most of my clientele. So I haven't done a lot of traditional like advertising or marketing for myself, so that doesn't take up a ton of time in my week.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to know. I mean, I'm sure there people are curious too. Where do you get some of your ideas from? Because they're super fun. They're definitely really like, you know, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where I'll watch something that you post and I'm like, yeah, I've thought that a million times, but then like putting it out there, you just deliver it really great.
So a lot of it is just my own experiences that I've dealt with clients, like because I've been doing this what like now 7 years, yeah, 7 years, and you go through a lot, and just thankfully I got to work with a lot of other lash artists, and we would always share stories. So a lot of it is just like inspiration from things either I went through or like some of my friends have gone through, um, and I just kind of try my best to deliver it in like a funny way, like because I found that with some I found out that some people when they deliver like something that bothers them, like specifically like with clients, because let's be real, like
Yeah.
we all get annoyed and whatever bothered, and people would deliver it in almost like a cringy like talking bad about clients kind of way. And I was like, okay, listen, like I'm gonna just try and speak very matter of fact. Like, listen, this is we go through this. Whether clients like to hear it or not, we go through this. But like, I put that funny spin on it. So one was not so cringy, but then I throw in that like, if you deal with this is what I would recommend doing kind of thing. So I putting that little like educational, funny spin on scenarios that we go through with customers or clients kind of made it land a little better instead of me just kind of talking crap about you know the
Yeah.
experience that we did with customers. That was the hardest one because honestly I was very scared of how that would be received when I would um, make the content about clients. I was very nervous, but then what I also learned is um, my clients that I have that are on my social media, they already know me, and they know where that information is coming from. Like it's not coming from a poking fun malicious kind of place. It's coming
Mhm.
from they know who I am. They we talk. So I started realizing like, let me not be so concerned about it. And the people who don't get it are not for me, and that's okay.
Mhm.
So I started being okay with my content not being for everyone. Because I knew that it didn't come from a bad place. So I hope that answered the question.
It did, yeah, and that's so, I think, important, um, in our industry. It's so interesting, and I don't know where you are, like, what you'd call, quote, unquote, "competition," and this is a conversation that, I have a lot 'cause I have a team, and
Mhm.
so we've had these conversations, because we just reduced our hours, and so we're only open till 5. And it was one of those conversations where I said, "We won't be for everybody. Like, that's not gonna be, you know, um, everything we do or what we charge, things like that, right? You have to figure out, like, who you are and who's gonna be your people and what's gonna be your thumbprint." And so that's really great, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, I refer out now. If somebody's like, "Hey, I need to have a 7 o'clock appointment." I'm like, "Hey, I know this great lash artist or this great lash artist," and they're open till later. And so I think knowing kinda who you are. Have you seen that in, like, your area as well? Like, you're just like, you know who you are, and this is the kind of, like, lashes you do or service you provide, and so you've kinda seen that difference?
Like for me personally, yes, I am starting to learn. I do see a lot of people making the mistake of just trying to be everybody's everything.
Yep,
I see the burnout happen very fast. They're very tired. Um, but yeah, no, I have started learn like I do kind of have this like I know who I am. Like I know the people that want to be serviced by me will figure it out. Like if they want to me to be their lash tech, they will make my hours work for them, not the other way around. I don't have to make my hours work for them. So yeah,
what
kind
did
of
it take you to get there? For you to, like, I think that's really hard, and I mean, kinda like what you just said, you had other things before this that kind of helped you start to figure out, right? I'm sure some of those pieces in each of those jobs, things like that, right? Um, I mean, I think you said, like, kinda said it was funny that social media brought you back around, right? Because
yeah.
that's part of who you were and, like, these fun pieces that you just naturally move into.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that that's really hard right now of people trying to, like, really find who their authentic self is. So, what would be your advice to somebody if they were, like, trying to figure that out? How'd you tell them to start?
That's really hard. That's a deep question.
That's gonna be a lot of
Um,
these questions on this. That's the goal.
it's kind of like I don't know. I feel like it's a tough question because I mean, with our industry, I feel like some people. This is just my own personal opinion. People might
Yeah,
not agree with it, but
of
I
course.
do feel that sometimes some people find they hold on a little too hard to being like their authentic, a completely authentic self, forgetting that like at least in my area, what I find is a lot of people put themselves 100% first, regardless of anything else when it comes to
Mhm,
clients. And like, I respect that. But at the end of the day, they forget like we need clients. They don't technically need us. So
mhm.
I have a hard time kind of answering that question because like I'm all for people like being themselves and doing what makes them happy. But I do find that sometimes people kind of take that a little too far and forget that like you do still have to remember we're in customer service. I don't know if this is making sense, but like we are in customer service essentially. So like I'm not saying like do bend over completely backwards for the clients and do what it takes to get clients. It's like a weird balance you have to find. Like be happy and be yourself, but we still need clients. And if nobody likes you,
Yeah, no, and I think that that's, like, a line that a lot of people don't, like you just said, walk, just kind of like you can be, it's actually one of my favorite things I say to my staff, "To be unclear is to be unkind."
yes,
Right? So I love Brené Brown. That's a quote that she says, and it's the truth of, like, these are our hours. This is like our aftercare for our lashes, or this is what needs to happen, that kind of a thing. But um, I think what a lot of people, at least what I'm maybe hearing you say, is like maybe people are missing the space of like what that looks like though to be in the service industry or to
mhm.
have good customer service, to be kind, to those clients. And
Like yeah, like one of the things like I guess I'll give you a perfect example. Like I see a lot of and I see it a lot on like social media and like, the Facebook forums that, people are like the slightest inconvenience, they're ready to like fire a client because it disturbs their peace and like they can't, things like that. And it's like I love protect your peace, yes, I love that. But like you have to remember like the slightest inconvenience doesn't equate to firing a client. Like there's that fine line we have to learn how to walk like find like what makes you happy, what fills your cup, but also what fills your pockets. I mean, we have to make money. We have bills to pay. The world's not going to stop.
yeah. So that's such a great like thing I want to sit on for a second. So give me an example of what that looks like for you, where you're just like, okay, here's the line of, if you have somebody who's maybe habitually late or, I mean, I actually used to have a client that when I was pregnant with one of my daughters, she would walk in for her appointment and she'd be like, "Hey, fatty, what's up?"
Oh,
Not even kidding, right? And so, I mean, she thought she was being funny, but I mean, to a 7 month, pregnant woman who has cankles at the time, yeah,
not the best thing to say.
you know. But it was still one of those things where she was a really great paying client and was always on time for her appointments. And, so where do you think that line is for people of, because I do think you're right. I think people are really, I think even just like outside clients, like jobs and friendships and things like that, people just don't know what this is anymore to have like, hey, we can have a conversation and we don't even have to agree in the conversation, but you can still be respectful to each other and you can still agree to disagree
Yeah.
and exist with people.
Like, yeah, no, I one like for example, you said like people who are habitually like I have those clients. I think we all do.
Hmm.
And the way that I kind of learned to make peace with it in my head is at the end of the day, like I've already said my piece to them, like, hey, listen, like you're late. Like I I don't have the same amount of time now that I did if you were on time. So my service is still gonna cost what it's gonna cost, but you're gonna get less of it. Are you okay with that? And if they say yes, then that's I don't have to stress over it. They know they're gonna get less. The fine line is if you communicate to them, they agree, but then still complain. Things like that. Then oh, you know what? Let's cut ties. I gave you 3 strikes. You keep complaining, even though we both kind of knew what this was. We got to go. Honestly, in the scenario that you would have put, I personally, like, I would have mentioned, like, hey, listen, that makes me a little uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
no offense. And I have had having the hard conversations is the hardest part of going into this by yourself because you don't have like that manager to have those conversations for you. So I've had thankfully had to be that manager, so I've gotten comfortable talking to people about uncomfortable things. So I would say, hey, listen, like, with all due respect, like I know it's not coming from a bad place, but let's not, like
Yeah.
let's just say hello. And if she keeps going, then you know what? That's when we be like, listen, like this is just getting inappropriate now, so I'm just gonna cut ties here.
Yeah.
So it's just about communicating. Just
Hmm.
communicate. Communicate. People, I don't think they know how to communicate, and they just want to run away from the problem. And running away to them is getting rid of the client. And it's like it doesn't have to always get there.
No.
Um, you know. So.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of going back around to that holding space piece. I always tell people when you see people have reactions, um, something as small as, this eyelash is out of place and you just see them like massively blow up or something like that. I always remind people, I'm like, this isn't coming from a space of what's occurred with you. It's just like rubbed against something that was there. And so
Mhm.
let's walk through that. Like, what's that? And I think what most people want to be is just heard, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. I say that all the time. I learned that, like I said, through my experiences, especially working in. I worked in a call center where my job was basically to handle like the already upset customers. Like they've already spoken to 2 other people and they wanted to escalate, and it eventually came to me. And that taught me a lot about dealing with like upset people and any level of the upsetness is they just want to be heard. Like you literally don't even have to do anything for them sometimes. Just acknowledging that you heard them is sometimes enough. And that's big because I don't think a lot of people really um, know how to do that.
No.
They feel almost like they have to like defend themselves, and it's like it's not that serious. If the customer wants to complain, let them complain. They just want you to know that they're upset, and you're like, okay, you acknowledge it. If a resolution is needed, then resolve it. But otherwise, just listen, and you'll be okay.
Yeah. Have you like heard or read any of like Brene Brown stuff?
Anyway,
Of Brene Brown?
no.
So she's great. She is a researcher who has studied shame.
Hmm.
And what I have found that I feel like in our industry, and I'll be so curious to hear how you do with this and what your thoughts are on this, is that when people will say, like you just said, they're complaining, right? And they just
Hmm.
want to be heard, of let them just do that. But a lot of people in our industry, I feel like, and I mean, I did this for a very long time. was I would take it so personal.
Mm.
Uh, I would hear them complain about the lashes are falling out and, this is insane or X, Y, and Z. And so the instant thing I would move to well, I'm a bad lash artist or I do permanent makeup now. I'm doing terrible at permanent makeup. And it's that constant game of not only comparison, but then shame and, certain like numbers on the Enneagram, they move to shame a little bit more. I haven't gotten to doing kind of Enneagram work yet, but it's really fun. I want to do like a whole series with people and our
Yeah, I
industry.
started looking into that a little bit. I'm not too familiar with it, but I found my number one time and I forgot what it was.
It's so fun and fascinating to learn about it. So I think that'd be my question for you is how have you walked inside of that when clients are calling and they're complaining about something that you don't instantly move to that space? Or is that just not something you feel like you naturally move towards of like, oh, I'm a bad lash artist or I
No,
did
I do. I do a lot. I feel like just anyone who's artistic is very hard on themselves. And I feel like in this industry, we all are basically artists essentially. So I think we're all very proud of our work. And when someone doesn't like our work, we have this internal thing where we're like, we suck, we suck, we suck. But no, um, I, um, I've learned to basically just take the information in, take a second or whatever amount of time you need, and then respond. Take it in, process it, respond. I think a lot of people just hear it and respond immediately. And it's like you're responding from an emotional place, not a
Mhm.
logical place. So a lot of people have to learn how to do that. Just, okay, I hear you. If you don't have an answer for it right away that is not emotional, just be like, I hear you. Let me take a second to like see what I can do for you. Like, I want this to be fixed. I want you to be happy. I don't know what the answer is right now. Can I get back to you? And then you can really think about it, sit on it, and realize that when you put it into perspective, it's not you, especially if it's one client complaining about fallout out of like the hundreds that you have, or that's a lot of clients, but you know what I mean. You can tell, okay, like it's one out of 50 clients, not a big deal. Okay, it could be a fluke, it could be them, they could be rubbing their eyes. Like you think about it, and it's like it's not so bad. So a lot of people just need to learn how to like just process the information before they answer,
Hmm.
and that's really hard. That's really hard because you feel attacked immediately and you want to respond, you want to fight back. Things like that fight or flight, you know. So just learning how to process before you answer is kind of how I try and deal with it now. Because I still, even now, I will get a text message to client, and it's very rare, but when I do get it, I will immediately be like, oh my God, what did I do? And I think about it and I think about it. I'm like, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal. Like when I answer them the next day or a couple hours later, it's fine. You have to kind of just process it in your mind.
How long did it take you to get there? Because you've been in it for 7 years now. So
Yeah. It took me probably 6 years.
you're like
um,
yesterday. Yesterday is
we're
when
just
it
getting there.
happened.
No, it takes a while, and it's still a work. I feel like it's always going to be a work in progress. It's just I just don't let it affect me as long now.
Mm,
I'm not going to lie and say I don't go there in my mind of it being me originally, but I'm a lot better at getting to that logical place a lot quicker now because I am starting to realize like I wouldn't be at the level that I am, like as busy as I am and as like well received on socials as I am if like I didn't know what I was doing. So
right.
like I know what I'm doing. I have to just kind of remind myself like that, like I don't know if I'm allowed to curse, but like I am the shit. You have to tell yourself that. Like you're good, you're fine. Like you are who you are for a reason. This one complaint doesn't change that. So you gotta give yourself little pep talks every now and then. You
Well, and
know?
something I tell a lot of times with my teams, once again, going back to like the heart pieces of it, I'm like, what if the thing that you're supposed to be learning from this client has nothing to do with lashes? What if they're here to teach you a lesson? Like, what's the
Right.
lesson that you're supposed to try to be learning
Yep.
in that space?
Yeah, no, that if you don't learn from it, like, then it's just wrong. You should be learning from everything. Like, don't think of anything as like necessarily a mistake. You know,
Mhm.
it's only wrong if you don't learn. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, no, I try and learn a little something from every bad that happens. Like, okay, like it sucked, but like, what can I do? What can I learn from this so that this doesn't happen again, or at least doesn't happen as badly? So I
Yeah,
used to tell people that all the time because I like I said, I did also have a team under me when I worked at a salon, and I did have to have those uncomfortable conversations with them as well. Sometimes, if a customer complained, I had to figure out their side of it, and I always try to position it as a learning opportunity, as opposed to like a reprimand. Like,
mhm,
hey, listen, like this happened, spilled milk. Can't change the fact that it happened. How do we avoid it from happening in the future? Like, even if it's not your fault, how do we learn from this? So they really appreciate that.
yeah, and I think, I mean, this is a conversation I've had with my team because, we've had definitely a few things that have happened, and they're just like, "Man, I can't believe, like, we didn't get fired for this or we didn't whatever," and I have told them, I'm like, "If we get to, like, walk inside of an experience and learn from it, then, like, that value is so much more," right? And I think that that's also something. I said this to, one of our staff the other day when we were having an issue with a client, and, I was in the back and I could hear it, and I could just hear, I mean, it was like, if I could imagine a picture, right? Those who are kinesthetic learners, all I could see was, this client coming in and her fists were like this, right? She was just ready to fight. And, but just hearing that in her tone and stuff. And it's instantly that space of, I think a lot of times people have been, if they aren't seeing somebody who's actually like caring all the way about the client, then they've been taken advantage of, or they like, I don't wanna be in the wrong, and so that's a lot of times when, like, I'll ask clients, like, "Alright, like, let's walk through this, like, what are you using, like, for skincare? What are we," like, kinda trying to troubleshoot, like, tell me about the rest of your day, and I always tell people, I'm like, there's not a, like, "You're in the wrong," or whatever, it's, "Let's try to figure out what happened," because you're not thinking about this every day, right? You're gonna get your lashes done, and then I had a client once that went to a movie theater that night and, like, watched a really sad movie and cried for 3 hours straight, and so I'm like, "But you don't think about that, like, oh, I
Yeah,
got my lashes done and I'm gonna go get a spray tan," or things like that, and so, I think it's just also realizing of holding space for other people as they're walking in things that a lot of times we don't even know what they're walking in, and so, maybe their eyebrow wax wasn't exactly what they thought it was, and it was just, like, the tip of the iceberg for them that day of maybe a fight they had with their husband before they came into the, salon to get the lashes done or whatever. And you just are the aim of where all that like anger and frustration and pieces are coming at.
yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, I've had my share of people who I don't know if I was like just the straw that broke the camel's back that day. Um, I don't know, just learning how not to take things personal is like it's hard, but I have had that. Like I've had clients who when I used to work in a salon, they would get their lashes done, and um like I dealt a lot with it being just like a gay guy in the industry. Just there's not many of us in the lash industry.
No, there's not.
At least not yet. We're growing. We're getting there. And I dealt a couple of times with people. I mean, I don't know if this is kind of a similar scenario, but like just I would do their lashes, and then they would complain and just completely just say all kinds of awful things, just not even relating to like my skill, just personal things, and it's just like
Oh,
they sting in the moment, but you
mhm.
know, it's their words. They're not gonna affect you. And like I said, I just put things into perspective. Like you got to think about it. Like okay, like I know who I am. I know I'm not what she says. This is just I don't know where it's coming from, but it's not coming from the truth. So
Mm.
um, I don't know.
That's like a lot of wisdom. And to be honest, I'm just really curious what that looks like on your side and how you started to like really figure that out. Because before you even walk into this industry, like, I mean, really in any industry, but I feel like even this one can be like really hard. And like you just said, there's not a lot of gay guys that are in the industry, especially the lash side of it.
Yeah.
So, what was something that when do you feel like that started to just like happen for you that helped you really start to know like you just said, like it's not truth, it's words that are being thrown at you. You know what I'm saying? Knowing.
Yeah, so that's I mean, I feel like every person who's in my shoes, like every gay person kind of deals learns that eventually. I mean, I would hope. um, because we do deal with it our entire life, basically. Um, you I don't you kind of just grow up learning how to, as sad as it sounds, how to deal with it, and I learned to not be naive about the world. you
Mm,
know I understand how the world works. I understand that, you know it's not going to be, not everyone's going to see it the way that I see it, and that's okay. I don't need those people in my life. I learned how to remove basically. Okay, let me bring it full circle here.
you're good, you're
Or
good.
I learned how to remove that energy from my life because I
Mm,
had to do that so many times that now it's like, if I encounter, for lack of better words, a hateful person, like, I know that once they're done with their rant today, whether, the 5 minutes that they're going off on me, like, it's just going to be 5 minutes of my life. The rest of my life it'll carry on. So, like, say what you want. I know who I am. I've made it, through life, and I've been successful despite what everyone has said. So, like, what you're telling me now, you don't know me outside of, whatever amount of time you interact with me today. I don't know you outside of that time. So you're saying these words based off of a person you don't really know. So, like, I'm not gonna take it personally. Like, you don't know me, and you're entitled to feel how you want right now, and that's okay. I don't have to agree with you.
yeah,
So, and I'm not gonna say the words never sting. They do,
yeah.
but I don't let them define me or defeat me.
Mm.
So that's very sad. But
No,
it's a harsh reality of the world, as for every 10 people that are friends, there's 5 that are not. So you gotta
yeah,
just remember that.
yeah, well, and I think it's really important to learn, who are you giving weight to? I love it. Renee also talks about this, about, like, if you think about a microphone, right, in your life, who are you giving to speak into that?
Hmm.
Not everybody gets that privilege, right? So, like, even in this space, like me asking you, some of these, like heart questions kind of a thing, like, we get to know, like, a small space of it, but those who have been in your life for a long time and have held weight and carried in those dark spaces with you, they get to know way more of your story, right? Not
Hmm.
everybody gets to know your story. But they haven't earned that privilege, right?
Right.
So it's the same spaces of, like, when clients are saying things. I think what's so hard, and that I see a lot of our industry, is that people will allow that negative energy to affect them so much to the point that they're like, "Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do this job, or maybe I shouldn't do whatever." And so, it's a conversation that I've had, I mean, with people who, like, I've been at conferences with, or even my own team, where I'm like, "Listen, you're no matter what job you go to, you're always gonna have, like, the hard
The
people."
hard people. Yep.
Yeah. And so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this, since you've had quite a few. Of, how does somebody know, like, should they be in this industry? Is this something they should do? Because I think a lot of times people, I remember somebody I was in school with, she said, "Yeah, I'm excited. I just get to go to work and play makeup all day." And I was like, thinking, like, you just don't know what's coming, kind of a thing. But because there are days where it is really fun, and it's like you said, like the lighthearted pieces, but every day is not sunshine and rainbows and bubbles. And so where have, in your experience of moving through these jobs, where you were like, okay, like, is it time to move up, move out? Is it time to move to a different career? Is it time, to also, though, learn that, like, when it's hard, it doesn't mean you just bail ship, which is what I think so many people
Yeah.
do.
I think you have to first, really kind of look internally and, like, ask yourself, like, despite all the bad, like, do you still love, like, this the skill? Related to lash extensions specifically, and for the answer, like, do I love lash extensions despite, like, all the bad people that I do? Do I still want to do lash extensions? It's like, okay, yes, like, but can I deal with it? Like, how do I answer this? Like, I okay, so for example, like, when I used to work in the call center, I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do forever, because despite all the bad, I knew it wasn't, like, personal or anything. I just didn't love being there. It didn't. I never looked forward to it. Like I didn't. I don't love it. And with lashes, even though I dealt with hard things, I still had a drive to like want to do it. And like I knew that like no matter what happened, no matter how bad of a day I had, I always saw myself continuing to do it. Like I don't know how to I don't know. I don't know I get lost sometimes with words.
No, you're okay, you're
um
okay.
it's really hard to answer that question for me. I don't know. I feel like if you're not willing to learn and grow,
Mm,
everything's going to be hard for you,
no matter what you do.
no matter what you do,
Yeah,
because you have to be willing to like humble yourself and like go into it ready to learn something new about yourself or about what you're doing, or because some people just they go in and like you said they just expect sunshines and rainbows 24/7, and if it's not that then they're going to go find something else, and they're going to find themselves constantly searching because they're not embracing the fact that that's not the world. That sounds so negative to say, but it's like have to understand that in order for there to be good there has to be bad, otherwise
yes.
things just are. And so if you don't embrace that and really wrap your head around that, then you're going to find yourself constantly searching for like where you belong, because you don't want to deal with any bad. But
Mm,
we know that's not, no matter what you do, you could be working in, even like the multi-millionaire jobs, they deal with hard stuff,
all the time.
and the lowly people deal with hard stuff. So it's like no matter what you do in life, whether you're your own boss, whether you work for somebody else, it doesn't matter. You're going to deal with hard stuff. So don't expect sunshines and rainbows all the time. Just figure out how you can learn from the bad when it happens and figure out how to make it happen less, I guess is the best advice. And if you can't figure out, then it doesn't matter what I say, you're not gonna stay in any industry, you
Yeah.
know? So
I think a good friend of mine said to me, "Get comfortable with being uncomfortable."
yes.
And because I just
People don't
remember,
want to be uncomfortable these days.
no, no,
Mm-mm.
I remember asking when COVID happened. I just said, "Man, this is just hard." Um, and I just said, "I just like, when does like the hard stop?" And I just remember him saying that to me. He said, "If you want to stay in leadership, right?" And leadership, I tell people all the time, leadership doesn't mean you have like owner next to your name or CEO or right. Leadership means like you're helping making decisions, you're helping improving things, you're helping as people are looking to you in those spaces, right? You're gonna like be in that space, learn that like you're gonna probably be really uncomfortable. But even as if you choose not to be a leader and you're gonna be a follower, it's still gonna be uncomfortable because then you don't get to make the decisions that are inside of that. So then you have to come to terms with being like, okay, I'm choosing not to step in that. So I now have to just be uncomfortable in being this or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that right there is something that people just miss, and I think it's so interesting. I was really just thinking this to myself when you said there's no influencers in our industry. I'm like, even as an influencer, I think people think their lives are just super easy, and I'm like, oh man, as an influencer, like I have a few people that I know that are fairly good sized influencers, and I mean, they've told me some of the hateful things that people have sent them or stuff like that, and I'm just like, man, you just got to learn how to, you know,
Yeah.
do
It
the
happens. It happens in RN too. Like it's you have to be uncomfortable with being, like I said, uncomfortable even in this, because you're gonna have people who maybe are not hateful, but like who disagree with what you're putting out there. Like,
Mhm.
because a lot of what we put out is like our own personal opinions, and it's like if somebody thinks differently than you and they make it heard that they disagree with you, that's uncomfortable. Like I've dealt with that a little bit where people are like, but like I don't think that what you're saying is correct, and I'm just like, okay, like that's okay. It's just my point of view. It's what works for me, and I'm sharing it for the people who it also will work for. If it doesn't work for you, then that's okay. It doesn't work for you. It's not that big of a deal. that's I don't know. I am really getting good at telling myself like nothing is that big of a deal. Like it's not like this could all go away tomorrow and like I'll still figure it out. Like I'll figure life out. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like
Yeah,
I've been at points where it's like, like and I kind of try and find the silver lining in everything in my life because I have had really like lows, with going through things in life, just financially and personally and whatever. And it's like I survived that. So like if somebody's just disagreeing with an opinion I'm giving on social media, then over like not to like downplay lashes because again, what we
yeah,
do is really big, but like something as insignificant in the big scheme of things, like as lashes, I'm not gonna go like jump in traffic over it. Like it's fine. It's
yeah.
even the hateful feedback that we'll get sometimes, and I've gotten some, like not very many, thankfully, on social media, but I've gotten some hateful stuff, and it's like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. It's usually coming from someone again who doesn't know me. It's from something internal within them that they are spewing this hate, and
Yeah,
it's fine.
has nothing to do with you. It's a lot that it has to do with
No,
me.
yeah.
So like one last question before we jump off. If you're going to give somebody new some advice, 'cause I love going back to that customer service, who's listening to this, what would just your advice be in that? Of like not bailing on the hard things and, you know, wanting to just like dump people when they get hard.
I always tell people, and this is kind of a cliched like line, maybe not like word for word, but like your biggest growth comes from your discomfort. So like if you don't allow yourself to be uncomfortable, you're going to be stuck in the same place for the rest of your life because you're not going to know how to like get better, right? Because that's how we get better because there's something that's making us uncomfortable and we don't want that uncomfortable feeling anymore. So we're gonna grow from it. If you never allow yourself to feel uncomfortable, then you're not gonna have any drive to grow. So just learn to grow from your discomfort. Like don't let it defeat you.
I have to
That's
have
what I
you
would
back
always tell
on
people.
for a
Yes.
little
Yeah.
Enneagram segment, and
Oh yes, please.
I'll send you like a thing, and yeah, it'll be really fun to get to kind of like go over that with you and stuff. So, which will
Yeah.
be so
Sure.
fun. So, anyways, thank you so much for taking time
Thank
today.
you for asking me to be on. It was fun talking.
Yeah, you're such a doll, and I'm sure at some point we'll get to see each other in person.
Oh
So,
yeah, absolutely.
our world's small. So,
Yeah.